Hey everyone, welcome to Pickleball and Beyond. My name's Ryan.
My name is Vino.
And today we are looking at the Mozi Goldrush. So this was a paddle we were able to demo at PickleCon, and we already put out a review on their Galaxy Pro, which was an awesome freaking paddle. And it was super fun to try their titanium paddle out. So what were your initial thoughts on this paddle?
So this is supposed to have this new titanium surface. We have done a couple of reviews of paddles with this material. You have the Honolulu T2, the J2 Ti.
Yep.
You have the
Bread and butter
Shogun.
Yep.
So it doesn't have titanium, it's just the material that's called.
Yep.
And it's also, this one specifically says it has 3K carbon as well. Overall, really nice paddle.
Yep.
Just the design, the way it looks, everything.
Really sparkly design.
Yes, very sparkly.
That was the very first thing I remember.
Compared to the others, I think this is
yeah,
like
it's
one
like
of the most
super sparkly.
Sparkly one, so definitely matches its name. We categorize this as an all-around paddle.
Yep.
We really liked it.
Yes.
Where would you put this comparatively?
Yeah, I would just barely categorize it as a power paddle, right? I think we've noticed these titanium paddles seem to kind of add a little emphasis on that power, and then with its elongated shape, I think those tied together, it just squeaks into that power category. Mind you, it's not like you're whacking it with like a 12 millimeter thin power paddle. So it still did retain, spoiler alert, it still retained more control than you'd expect, but I think it still is a power paddle.
Okay, so let's walk through like our categories. I mean, we'll put the specs on, but let's start with the control side, right? Kitchen control. How did you feel this paddle worked out? And let's just compare that with the Mozi Galaxy so that we can get some reference.
Yeah, the Galaxy Pro is definitely softer at the kitchen, which is one thing, you know, I really liked about these thick, your classic 16 millimeter carbon fiber surface. It is just so soft at the kitchen. Where this titanium, for those of you that haven't played with it, it truly does, it has its own feel. It might take you a little to get accustomed to it, but it still does have a soft feel that you can still, you know, place your dinks really well. But I think the biggest difference for me is I find with like these 16 millimeter carbon fiber paddles, just like the Galaxy Pro is a great example, I think your resets are a bit easier to control with that compared to something like your Goldrush. But the sweet spot's also just bigger on a paddle with this shape naturally, since this is an elongated paddle.
And just talking about sweet spots and like maneuverability and stuff like that, that comes at 107 swing weight. This comes at a little bit on the heavier side of 124.
I knew it was high,
definitely. It's a heavier swing weight. And the twist weight, like it's fairly comparable, 6.2, 6.4. I'm actually going to jump the gun a little bit because this seems to be a question with lots of people, and let's talk about like even in the kitchen, the spin. Does this have more spin catch even in the kitchen compared to your standard cup? Yeah,
I remember, so this paddle in particular, I remember we were pretty blown away by the spin we were getting on it, especially like you said at the kitchen line. One of our tests is, you know, hitting the backhand dink with that backspin on it, and it catches the ball like ridiculously well.
Yes, and I think that's what you're seeing with this kind of a little bit of a change of surface, and we got a couple of people to play, and all of these people like use spin a lot, even in their serves and stuff like that. It was really gripping and turning the ball. So if you're looking for one of those spinnier paddles, this is definitely starting to hit that notch. The power part of it.
Yeah, I'd say it's a very hard-hitting paddle. Again, it's not like your a gearbox. You know, everybody knows their paddles, that's super popular. It's not at that level. It's a couple notches below, but it still hits very, very hard. It kind of reminds me in a way of like a common paddle we've used is like the Huda Viva Pro Gen 3, for example. It's kind of around that range where it still is in, like, you know, it's kind of like a power paddle, but it's not
as a power paddle.
But it's not that extra level where people like are gonna look at you and go, what paddle is that? But it still hits very hard.
And I think with what it has to offer, I think it's giving everything that you want. Even when you drove with it, you had good power, good meat to that shot. How did you think the pop on this was?
The pop on it, I'd say it was, you know, this titanium is a really interesting surface on it. It was, again, I'd say it was just like about what you'd expect. It wasn't like anything out of the ordinary. I think it felt kind of true to like, maybe there's a little more pop than you'd expect with this titanium, but again, it wasn't
Yeah. So, adaptability.
I know.
What kind of people is it for? How adaptable is
I think
this paddle?
one good point you mentioned was, again, to swing the paddle, it is a little tougher than some with the numbers that you already gave.
Yep.
So that might be good for somebody used to like a tennis background racket, right? It's elongated. I think that's who this would be a great option for, someone with that tennis background. Or again, if you're just looking for a nice elongated power paddle that still has actually a decent amount of control, it's a good option.
I mean, the paddle itself comes at $219. With our code, you're going to get a further discount. So more on the pricier side. But I think it has something different to offer. The play, the feel. I think we really enjoyed playing with this. Something different. Mozi is coming up with a whole bunch of really interesting paddles. So definitely check it out. If you want to try it in the Rochester area, please reach out to us. We like helping people find paddles that work for them. Please subscribe, please comment. Hope to see you in another paddle.